Revenge films.
My name is Melissa, and I have a little brother named Kevin. Last month, he proposed to his girlfriend, and he was going to be getting married. He told me that we were going to be having dinner with his fiancé's family and our family for everybody to meet. Because everybody would be off, they chose a holiday week, and the date was already set. Without even asking us if we were available or what our schedules were like, he simply reported to us after it was already decided and told us to be there. Wait, what? You're not even going to ask us about our schedules? It's true that it's a public holiday, so we have the week off every year, but still. It seems like my parents felt the same way I did, but they didn't want to cause any further problems, so none of us said too much to Kevin, and we decided to just abide by his plan. But when Kevin invited us to the family gathering, we realized that the dinner party was going to be food delivered to his fiancé's family house, and the gathering would happen at their house. For our family, we didn't live near the fiancé's family house. It meant that we would have to travel a long way to get there, so all of the preparations and the food costs were going to be borne by his fiancé's family. Based on how my little brother was talking about it, I assumed that that was something he had already discussed and decided with his fiancé's family. However, the problem was that in my industry, public holidays didn't matter, and so I had to ask for a lot of favors in my office, and I was able to get a half day off from work. And my brother Kevin knew how hard it was for me to get the day off, so he apologized for making me do that, but said he was really happy that I would be there. On the day of the gathering, I hurried to finish my work in the morning and directly hopped on the bullet train. I met up with my parents at the destination, and then we all jumped into a rental car and headed to their house. When we arrived, my younger brother was waiting outside of the house with his fiancée by his side. I decided I should greet her first, but when I walked over to her to say hello, the first thing his fiancée Karen said to me was, "What? Hey, Kevin, what is your sister doing here? We didn't invite her today. I didn't think she was coming." I was shocked. I went through a lot of trouble and asked for favors to get a half day off of work and took an expensive bullet train to get there, so I didn't think that I was going to be met with that as the first words out of her mouth. When my brother heard that, he became angry and turned to his fiancée and said,
"What are you saying? Do you have any idea how much trouble my sister went through to take some time off of work and come all the way here to meet you?"
He was furious, but then her response was, "But that's none of my business. We thought that it was just your parents that were going to be coming over today. Why is she coming over when we didn't even invite her? We didn't approve of this either, did we?" His fiancé's parents were standing there, and when they heard their daughter speaking, their faces looked confused. When I was watching their reaction, I could tell that they were also not expecting me. And I later found out that her parents were told that because I was so busy, I wasn't going to be able to attend that day. Standing there outside of the house, my brother and his fiancée started to get into an argument, and both her parents and my parents were confused as to what was happening, and as soon as we had arrived, the entire situation was chaos. I later found out that the reason behind Karen's attitude, although it was an excuse, it turns out that she had an older sister and the two of them didn't get along at all. On the other hand, my little brother and I got along pretty well. Ever since we were little kids, both of our parents were working full-time, so I was usually left in charge of looking after my brother. And that's why, even after we both became working adults and I moved out, we would go out to eat together or go shopping together multiple times a year, and we remained close even in adulthood. I mean, it was mostly to buy gifts for days like Mother's Day or Father's Day or presents for our parents' birthdays, but generally speaking, we got along well. And it seems that his fiancée was jealous of me, and she just wanted to get rid of me from Kevin's life. Even though I was his older sister, she probably just didn't like to see my brother being nice to another woman. It was so ridiculous, but it's not like my brother and I were ever all over each other. We were just normal siblings. And neither my brother nor I were the type of people to love our siblings more than our romantic partners, so that made it all the more weird. However, when it came to this instance, my brother knew how much trouble I went through to get the day off for work and to travel all the way to this town. And the fact that his fiancée chose to say those words to me as soon as I arrived, he was angry at how rude she was right off the bat. This was the situation that we walked into, but I had already taken the day off of work and had already traveled all that way and was right in front of their house, so the parents invited me into the house, but of course, they didn't know that I was coming and hadn't planned for me to be there, so there was one portion of food missing. They did call the restaurant to see if the restaurant would be able to prepare one more portion, but because it was the holiday week, they were way too busy and there was no way they would be able to accommodate that. And not only that, but when we got to the dining room and tried to sit down at the table, there weren't enough chairs, so our entire family was at a loss for what to do. I was starting to get irritated and fed up with this, so I told them that I would just stand and that they could all start eating their food without me. But then Kevin said that even though I had gone through all this trouble to be there, he wasn't going to let me do that, so he offered to stand instead and offered to give me his food. But seeing that, it only irritated his fiancé more, and she got up and said, "What the hell? Just because you feel so sorry for yourself, you want your little brother to cheer you up? Seriously, that's so sad. I feel so sorry for you." No, actually, that's not my intention at all, but it seems that because of some strange misunderstanding on your end, there's not enough seats for all of us, and so I was just saying that as the outsider here, I would stand and let you all eat. I mean, in the first place, I didn't say a word about inviting you here anyway, so why don't you hurry up and leave? We don't need you here anyway. You're not invited, and I don't think you're part of the family. Right after she said that, suddenly Kevin's fiancé grabbed her glass of water and she tried to throw it all over me, but Kevin was standing between us and saw that, so he got up and defended me. Instead, Kevin was the one that got soaked with the water. What the hell, Kevin? Why are you defending your big sister? She's the one that said she's going to stand, so you should just let her do it as she wants. It's not like she was invited anyway. We're about to talk about our wedding between the families, and that's none of this woman's business. Just hurry up and make her leave. She wasn't invited. When she said that, it was a given, but Kevin was furious. He knew the effort I made to be there, and even my parents were on the verge of losing their temper seeing their daughter being treated like this by Kevin's fiancé. But this time, Kevin's fiancé's parents spoke up, but they were getting into an argument with each other, blaming the other for not confirming the numbers for the gathering and for not asking whether I would be attending or not. The whole situation had turned into chaos, and Kevin realized that in this situation, there was no way that we would be able to talk about the wedding, so our family decided to leave. And of course, my brother was on our side, and he was going to leave with us as well, but his fiancée tried to cling to him and tried to stop him. She started crying. Please, Kevin, why are you trying to leave? The only person that needs to be leaving is that woman. This is about us, and we need to make some big decisions about our wedding together. She was trying to keep him there, but my brother turned around and looked at her like he was looking at a pile of trash. He brushed her off and he walked out the door with us, and we all left. Inside of the bullet train on our way home, everybody was silent, not knowing what to make of the situation. But as soon as we got home, my brother got down on his knees to apologize, mainly to me, and my parents turned to him and told him that he really should rethink getting married to that girl. But I was so irritated and so exhausted from holding in all my anger that day that I didn't have anything to say. Over the next few days and throughout the public holiday, Kevin's ex-fiancée started showing up at our door unannounced and also making multiple phone calls to the house. And even her parents were joining in, demanding that there was no need for the two young people who were in love to have to break up, and they started saying that I was the one that was in the wrong because I showed up unannounced to the family gathering. But when they heard that, it only angered my parents and my little brother even more, and they turned to his ex-fiancée. They told her whose fault it was that all of this was happening, and they were yelling at his ex-fiancée that she was the root of the cause of all of this. And the reason why she was constantly calling us was because apparently my little brother had told her that he wanted to call off the engagement and that he wasn't going to ever get married to her. Somehow Karen had gotten my phone number, and I had multiple voicemails from her saying that all of this was happening because it was my fault. And then she started saying that I need to take responsibility for it and pay her a settlement fee. None of it made sense, and I was at a loss for words. I just handed my phone over to my brother and showed him the voicemails, and I overheard him on the phone yelling at her. That was my very first time meeting my brother's fiancé, and the first time that I saw him this serious about a girl. But to be honest, I was more shocked that my little brother had even considered marrying someone that was this rude and selfish. According to my brother, she had always loved him more than he loved her, and she was the one that pursued the marriage. And as a result of that, she was so obsessed with him that she wanted to get rid of anybody that was close to Kevin or any woman that he was kind to, even if it was his older sister. But his fiancé wasn't going to give up, and she wanted to do whatever it took to try to get Kevin to reconsider the marriage. He showed up at our family house crying and begging and screaming, and so my parents had to call the police on her. Both my parents and my little brother said that it was the worst public holiday of their lives. As for my little brother, he said that the moment we arrived at that family gathering and she said those awful words to me at the very beginning, he said that his feelings toward the marriage had already gone way down. But even still, he said that he tried to forgive her, but the moment she tried to throw water on me, he knew then that there was no turning back. When I got back home, I was so busy with work and working a lot of overtime that I was saved in some way, but I couldn't help but sigh at my brother choosing that woman to marry. When I first heard that my one and only sibling was going to be getting married, I was really happy. But ever since we got home, I only see my brother apologizing to me. And after that, in the end, my brother's engagement was called off. I didn't know this at the time, but my little brother had gone by himself to her family house, and he begged her parents to call off the engagement and that they would break up. On top of that, they hadn't decided on a venue or anything like that, and yet after inviting us over, she had been so horrible to me, and she kept coming after us or showing up unannounced to our house, and so he ended up being able to sue her for the trouble that she caused. Later, my brother used the money that he got from her, and as an apology to me, he gifted me a brand name purse that I had wanted for a long time. As for his ex-fiancée, she was yelled at by her parents that she was the one to blame for all of this, and apparently they collected the full amount for the food that day from their daughter. But she was barely working and didn't have enough money, so I heard that she had to add extra work and is having to go in early morning and work until late at night, but she did this all to herself. But I am truly glad that in the end they didn't get married. This time it's just so happened that I tried to participate in the dinner party and we found out her true nature. But if this had come to light after they got married, I think it would have turned into even more trouble. When I think about that, I did experience a pretty awful gathering, but it's good that we were able to realize her real self before it was too late. And with this, Kevin no longer had a partner, but I have a feeling that for my kind little brother, I'm sure he'll be able to find someone good soon. Right after I got married to Ed, my ex-husband, I moved into his mother Joan's house. Ed first didn't like the idea, but changed his mind, saying I would have less housework because Joan could share some of it, and I believed him. In retrospect, I should have insisted on opposing it. What awaited me from day one of my marriage was far from the one I had in mind before I got married. It was nothing like a sweet newlywed's life, but one of literal slavery. I had to get up at 4 in the morning to make breakfast. If the breakfast wasn't ready by the time Ed and Joan got up, she would hit me, so I couldn't fail this routine no matter what. But even though I prepared it on time, Joan would hit me anyway and throw out the food I cooked, calling it disgusting. I wasn't even allowed to sit at the table, and there was no meal for me, so I would eat kitchen scraps or the discarded part of the meat. On a bad day, I would eat the food from the trash bin that Joan had thrown away. There were more. If she didn't like the way I cleaned and did the laundry, she would yell at me and make me do it again. It all depended on her mood. After coming home from work, I had to prepare dinner, and the same thing all over again. After that, I had to clean the bathtub, and then I could finally go to bed around 1 a.m. I thought I was going to die every day. In the beginning, Ed was on my side, but he gradually became like his mother. Soon Ed started beating me. The objects they used to abuse me varied. A fly swatter, a long broom, and a long ruler were easier ones. They used an ironing board and the iron itself to hit me. They also threw stones at me. They took my earrings and didn't allow me to use any of it. If I wanted some clothes, I had to beg for more than 3 hours. Sometimes they made me sit outside on the ground, and I had bruises all over my legs. But otherwise, I didn't get to buy anything for myself. I should have run away sooner so I didn't have to endure all of this, but at the time, I was still hoping that Ed would become kind to me someday, but that never happened, and I came to the point where nothing mattered to me anymore. I was exhausted physically and mentally and didn't even have the energy to run away. In this way, I fell into a hole called marriage, was enslaved, and never got out of there. But I got pregnant and gave birth to a baby girl, Patricia. After a while, their abuse of me subsided. Maybe they thought it wasn't a good idea for Patricia to see her mother being beaten all the time. I thought I could finally have a normal life, but that didn't happen. When Patricia was around 5 or 6 years old, their abuse resumed. Patricia liked her grandmother, who spoiled her and bought her anything she wanted. She learned to ignore me when they were abusing me. I fell back into the hellhole of being a slave, but I told myself that I had to endure this for my daughter. I didn't know that was the wrong way of thinking. Patricia grew up watching her mother treated like a slave and beaten up, and she learned that it was okay to do that, and she started to act like them. As I was beaten up in front of her, before I knew it, my own daughter learned to beat me up. But she was still my daughter, and I loved her. I was really happy when she got into high school. One day, when she was back from school, I told her, "Congratulations, Patricia. I'm happy to see you grow up to be a high school student. I'm sorry I can't buy anything for you." The next moment, I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was on the hospital bed. I tried to get up, but intense pain ran all over my body and I couldn't even scream. The last thing I remembered was that I was at home telling Patricia the words of congratulations. But I still couldn't remember at all what happened after that, and I was confused. The nurse saw me awake and called the doctor. But I couldn't remember at all what happened after that, and I was confused. The nurse saw me awake and called the doctor. The doctor said it looked like I fell off the stairs and hit my whole body hard. But I didn't remember losing my footing. I still didn't understand what had happened, but the doctor told me what I needed was to rest completely still, so I did what I was told. When he left the room, I couldn't speak using my voice, and it was hard for me to stay awake, and I started to feel drowsy. That was when I heard the door open. I thought they came to see me concerned, even though they wouldn't normally, but what I heard next was something horrific. "I pushed her in the back. How come she's not dead yet?" What? She pushed me in the back? I instantly thought I shouldn't hear this, and pretended to be asleep, listening in on their conversation. "Yes, she was always stubborn. We were this close to going on a cruise with the insurance money. She ruined our plan."
Mom, keep your voice down. You never know who's listening.
She should go to hell already. It's okay. I won't fail again. Is this really a family conversation? Now it was clear that I didn't slip up. Patricia pushed me down the stairs. In addition, Ed, Joan, and Patricia bought the expensive insurance plan for me, and if I had died this time, they would have benefited a lot of money. After those three left, my house of cards collapsed finally. This was as bad as it got. They will surely attempt to murder me again. I finally realized I had to run for my life. I told the nurse that I wanted the doctor to see my body. The bruises I got from them were all over, and I told my doctor that this was no accident, but my daughter's attempted murder. I also asked to write up the medical certificate so I can sue them. I left the hospital before they would come again and hid at my friend's house. Not surprisingly, Ed learned about my discharge and called me right away.
Who said you could leave the hospital on your own? Come back to the hospital!
I won't come back. I don't know how you'll try to kill me next time. He sounded panicked.
What are you talking about? Who would do that to you? I came to the hospital to see how you were doing.
You may not admit it, but I heard what you three were saying in my hospital room. I will divorce you and demand damages from all of you. I have a medical certificate to prove your abuse. The doctor examined me and said that they were obviously the marks of daily abuse. And he said they were only joking and asked me to listen to their excuses. But who on earth would believe that? Patricia, who pushed me from the staircase, was a minor, and it would be difficult to bring criminal charges against her. Then I would settle for compensation for all these years. I also knew they would go broke in no time because I earned more than Ed. I already changed the account that my salary would be deposited into. The attorney referred by my friend said it was good of me that I kept a diary because that and the medical certificate would be strong evidence to claim compensation. That's probably why Ed panicked. I didn't want to see him ever again, so my attorney handled the communication on my behalf. Just like my attorney said, divorce and compensation were granted easily. Patricia was upset because she was used to getting everything she wanted with my income. Also, since she wasn't doing very well at school, she isn't likely to get a full scholarship. It'll be hard for her to go to college. Furthermore, after I left the house, no one cooked and did the housework. It became a trash house in no time. The word spread at her school and she lost her friends, isolated, and stopped going to school. As for Ed, since my friend who helped me out was related to one of Ed's colleagues, she told him the reasons for my divorce. The word that Ed tried to kill his wife spread like wildfire, and he was fired because of it. Their income was completely zero now. My compensation also stopped coming. As a result, their house was seized by the court, and they lost the house too. Ed called me once to ask me for reconciliation, but I would never do that, even in my next life. Joan was out of the question, but I will forget the fact that I ever had a daughter to move on with my life.
I'm Ray. I have a corporate job and live alone. I got married at 24 and lived with my wife Nancy until I was 29, when she died in a car accident. Who would have thought that I would become a widower at such a young age? But I just had to go on with my life with a big hole in my heart. Nancy and I were close, but shortly before she passed, there were some strange episodes between us. She started pushing alcohol drinks onto me. She suggested I go out for drinks with my friend, and she even gave me more allowance. And other times when I was drinking at home, she encouraged me to drink the ones that were higher in alcohol content. Apparently, she was trying to get me drunk. I can tolerate alcohol well, and I never really got drunk, though. But before I got a chance to ask her the reasons why, she passed away, and it's been hanging in my mind since. One day, I got a call from a lawyer. When I answered the phone, he was straight to the point. "You are having an affair, aren't you? My client is asking for compensation from you." I had no clue what he was talking about. I carefully said, "That can't be true." "We have evidence. There's no use making excuses." So he said. I told him that I wanted to see the evidence, and he set up a meeting for us in a cafe. Nancy is gone, and I had no idea what was going on, but I was very curious and wanted to talk to this lawyer. As I entered the cafe, the man with a name tag greeted me. "You must be Ray." He didn't waste any time. According to the lawyer, about a week ago, a man came into his office and claimed I was having an affair, and he demanded compensation from me. He said he was a friend of Nancy, and she consulted him about my having an affair. She didn't have the money and courage to talk to a lawyer, so he came to see the lawyer as a client on her behalf. At that point, I said, "That can't be true. Nancy passed away 6 months ago." The lawyer looked confused for a moment and continued, "You just made that up, didn't you?" He didn't believe me. "Here's the evidence." He opened the envelope and took a photo to show me. It surely showed me and somebody else other than Nancy sleeping in the same bed. I didn't know what to think, but with a closer look, I found a mole on my neck. That convinced me the photo was fake. I showed my neck to him, and he looked at me and the photo back and forth, and he was convinced as well. "It's vicious to create such a photo and try to defraud people for money." And he suggested that the 3 of us meet. I was curious why the man was trying to scam me and asked the lawyer to arrange the meeting as early as possible. He contacted the man and set up a meeting for us 3 days later. I was anxious about this meeting. When I got to the meeting place, there was a man I had never seen before sitting next to the lawyer. Why was this man suing me? I didn't have the slightest idea, and that was a creepy feeling. The lawyer and I talked beforehand and agreed to conceal the fact that Nancy had passed in order to find out his client's intention. I asked him what this was about, and he said he was a friend of Nancy, just like the lawyer told me, and he continued. She's suffering and mentally unstable because of your affair. She can't even talk to a lawyer by herself. You're a terrible man. I can't stand you as her friend. He was angry. Then the lawyer said, "This photo is CGI, which cannot be evidence. Do you have anything else to prove your story?" The man said, "It's not CGI. What's gotten into you now?" He seemed nervous. I said, "This photo must be created by Nancy. Only she could take a picture of me sleeping." Then the man didn't say anything. "You have to tell the truth." The lawyer repeatedly said this during the meeting, but the man wouldn't say otherwise. So I suggested we go to my house to confront him with the truth. When we got to my home, I showed him straight to Nancy's portrait and the urn, and he lost his word. I could tell he didn't know about this at all. She passed away 6 months ago from a car accident. Is she mentally unstable from my having an affair? Who on earth are you mistaking me for? And he knelt on the floor and cried like a baby. After a while, he came to his senses and started telling the truth. Before she passed, she was having an affair with this man. She made this fake photo to divorce me. She was going to trap me and demand compensation from me to divorce and be with this man. That's why she was trying to get me drunk on multiple occasions to back up her theory. If I said I had no recollection of going out, that was when I came home heavily drunk enough to lose memory for the entire night. She kept getting me drunk to make her plan work and testify that I was an alcoholic. It would take some time to make the story believable. If their affair was found out, their plan would go down the drain, so they decided not to see each other for 6 months. The man believed in Nancy and waited for her while saving up to get married to her, but she didn't reply at all no matter how many times he contacted her. He couldn't believe it, and he tried to ambush her in front of her work, which ended in vain. He was anxious, confused, and desperate. He concluded that he was the one who was deceived and dumped, and Nancy got back with me, and our life went on. He couldn't bear the thought and decided to take revenge on her. Then he knocked on the door of the lawyer's office with the fake evidence photo. He stuck to the original plan of divorcing us. Now that he knows the truth, he was overcome with grief and completely worn out. But that wasn't my concern. He had an affair with Nancy knowing she was married to me, then planned to deceive me to marry her. How could I forgive such a man? I told him while he was still crying before Nancy's photo, "I'm going to ask you to leave now. You will hear about the compensation later." And he said, "Compensation? What are you talking about?" And panicked. I asked the lawyer, "Can you take my case?" "Of course, thank you," he agreed. And the man said, "Hey, wait a minute. Can one demand compensation for having an affair with a deceased person?" Now he's more realistic. "Yes, they can. I'll walk you through it in a few days." "I can't believe it. This can't happen. Why is that, Nancy? Why?" He shouted emotionally. At that point, I threw him out and talked to the lawyer. He was sympathetic to me and acted fast, As a result, the man was charged for compensation sooner than I thought. Later, I learned that the man had a wife and a child, but divorced her to be with Nancy. On his divorce, his affair with Nancy became open, and he was also charged for compensation from his ex-wife. Now he seems to have lost all of his money. After he learned about Nancy's death, he became depressed. He couldn't continue his work and lost his job. Now he's used up all the money he had and ended up losing his family, his lover, and all the assets. He's seeing a psychologist and borrowed money from consumer finance to get by. As for me, I haven't been able to get over her until now. But now that I've learned about her cheating and all her plans, I finally got over her. I don't miss her at all, and I'm ready for my next chapter with the possibility of remarrying. I can't forgive her betrayal, but I would rather find that out than not knowing any of it. I can finally move on. My sympathetic friends often arrange meetups for me. I hope I'll meet someone special one day.
My name is Jessica Smith. I'm 30 years old and recently I got remarried. My husband's name is Kevin and he's 10 years older than me. Kevin was once married and already divorced, and he had a child from that marriage named Karen. And to be completely honest with you, I was being really troubled in my new marriage because of Karen. It was crystal clear that Karen hated me, and if that was the only problem, then I would have been able to manage it. But my new stepdaughter was actually bullying me and harassing me constantly. For example, when I would cook dinner for the whole family, she would say things like, "What the hell is this? Leftovers? It's so disgusting. This isn't edible. I can't believe you're making us eat this." And she would take it straight to the kitchen and dump the whole plate in the sink. Another time, when I tried to give her a birthday present, her response was, "Seriously? What the hell is this? It's so lame. I can't believe you have such bad taste. As if I would want something like this. I don't need it." And as she said that, she took it straight to the trash can and threw it away. That alone was difficult for me to deal with and figure out, but what made matters worse was that little by little, as we were married, my husband's attitude started to change as well. When I opened up to him one day about Karen's attitude and treatment of me, his response was,
"Oh, please, that's because you're not able to get along well with her. You should be able to figure it out yourself."
"But what do you mean? What am I supposed to do? Even when I try to cook for her, she just throws it away. And when I bought her a birthday present because I wanted to get along with her better, she didn't even try to use it once. Instead, she took it straight to the trash can and threw it away."
"But this is your job as a mother. Don't you realize that? You should be able to think about it and figure it out yourself."
We had only just gotten remarried, and I had never lived with Karen before we got married, and I moved in with them. But then my husband just dumped all of the blame and responsibility on me, and I was shocked. Not only was my husband refusing to help me at all, as time went on, Karen's attitude only seemed to escalate and become worse and worse. "I don't need your lunch boxes. They're so crap. So just give me some money to go get lunch, $100 every day, and I'm gonna go eat lunch with that." $100 every day? Don't you think that's a bit too much? "Excuse me? Don't you realize this is all your fault because your cooking is so disgusting? Whatever, just shut up and hand over the money, you old hag." In the beginning, I had my hopes up that we would be able to get along, and I was excited to have a stepdaughter. I wanted her to be able to rely on me as her new mom, but instead, I wasn't able to get close to her at all. She was only becoming meaner, and I could feel it chipping away at me emotionally. I was working full-time as a nurse in a hospital, but both of them assumed that I would be cleaning up around the house, and they would happily trash the house without putting anything in the trash can. When I would come home from my job, Kevin would say,
"You can clean this up."
And then he would disappear somewhere, and then Karen would say, "You better clean up my room before I get home today, you old hag. Bye." That was all she would say to me and leave. At this rate, I thought it would be bad for Karen's upbringing and for her future. So when Kevin came home from work one day, I decided to try talking to him about it one more time. "Hey, Kevin, can you please say something to Karen so that maybe she'll listen to me a little bit more? At this rate, I don't think it's going to be good for her future to be acting like this." As soon as I said that, the expression on my husband's face changed, and out of nowhere, he raised his hand and slapped me across the face at full strength.
Are you trying to tell me that I'm not raising my daughter correctly? Who the hell do you think you are?
I had never been slapped in the face before in my entire life, and at that moment, I didn't know what had happened to me, and I could only sit there in shock. But even still, my husband continued to yell at me.
How dare you talk about my daughter like that when you're the one who's not warming up to my daughter and you should be the one fixing it?
That was all he said, and then he stormed out of the apartment. And then shortly after that, Karen must have come home from school. When she walked in, she looked at me and grinned. I didn't know what to do anymore, and I started crying. I decided to go to my friend's house for the time being, and with tears streaming down my face, I spoke to her, not knowing what the right thing to do was. But then my friend was furious and said, "What is that? Are you kidding me? Your husband is the one that's completely wrong here. And first of all, it was only recently that you got remarried, and he's already acting like this, and yet he's just leaving behind such a big problem. And on top of that, I can't believe that he would even physically hurt you like that." My friend took my side and tried to cheer me up. She listened to me while I unloaded my concerns on her, and she was kind to listen to everything. And she told me that I could call her any time the next time something would happen again. I left her place feeling better until, on my way home, I walked by a certain cafe, and I stopped my feet. The reason was because through the window of the cafe, I saw my husband and Karen sitting there, and at the same table, there was another woman there, and the three of them looked like they were having a great time in their conversation. For a moment, the thought that Kevin might be cheating on me crossed my mind, but surely there was no way he would bring his daughter to the site of his affair. I didn't have any answers, and I was feeling worried about it, but I ended up going home. And then, about 3 hours later, the two of them came home. I tried to act as normally as possible, but right at that time, Kevin came over to me and said,
"If I remember correctly, you're getting your bonus this month, aren't you? So hand over your bank book and your seal to me."
Actually, ever since we got married, Kevin was the one that said that now we were a married couple, we should be sharing all of our bank accounts. And from this agreement, he had started handling my finances as well. But at the time I agreed with him, because we were going to become a family, I thought it was normal that we would be combining our finances. However, when I went to go get my bank book from the cabinet, I started to get a bad feeling about this. "What are you going to use this for?"
I'm going on a vacation. So hurry up and give that to me.
What? But I haven't heard anything about this. If we're going to go on a vacation, then we need to decide on the dates, because I have to ask for leave from my job. But then from the side, Karen was laughing as she said, "Seriously? Why the hell should we have to go on vacation with you? What makes you think you're invited when you're not even real family?" "What?" "Daddy and I are the only ones that are going to go on the vacation. Obviously, you're going to be staying home alone. Isn't that right, Daddy?"
That's right. We're going on the vacation this time without you. So just hand over the money you get from your bonus and stay here.
"But that's awful."
Shut up. Just hurry up and hand it over.
As he said that, Kevin raised his hands again, and he grabbed my bank book and seal out of my hands and ran out of the house with Karen. Even though I was so happy to finally be married, I couldn't think of this as a happy marriage at all. I was left alone in the room, and I dropped my shoulders, and I started thinking about what I should do moving forward. But right at that time, I received a phone call from my friend, and she told me to come to the cafe in front of the train station immediately. I wanted her to listen to what has happened, so I decided to go to the cafe, but as soon as my friend saw me, she waved at me to come closer over. "Look at that. Those 3 people over there. That's your stepdaughter and your husband, isn't it? And there's also another woman there." When I looked over in that direction, it was true that the 3 people I saw sitting in the cafe the other day were there together. I thought that it must be an affair in that case, but that was when my friend pulled out her phone to show me something. She told me that earlier she was actually sitting in the seat directly behind the 3 of them, and then she had taken out her cell phone and secretly recorded their conversation. She put her phone up to my ear so I could hear it, and when I did, I was devastated. And then my friend said to me that I should use that as evidence and take them to court and get a divorce from Kevin. That night, when Kevin came home with Karen, I handed him the green divorce papers. "You were trying to go on a vacation with Karen and your ex-wife, weren't you? Little did I know that you had gotten back together with her. Sorry, but I want to get a divorce, and you're going to give me back my money, too." When I said that, Kevin was clearly flustered, but from next to him, Karen raised her voice and said, Yes, Daddy, whatever. You should hurry up and get a divorce from this woman. Plus, we can go on the vacation with Mommy, just the three of us like old times. So hurry up and sign it. Karen didn't have a single word of apology towards me, and I was furious. Up until now, I thought of her as my new daughter, so I had been tolerating it all this time, but she was going to become a stranger to me now, so there was no need to think like that anymore. Unfortunately for you, I'm about to get a divorce from your father, so I don't think you're going to be in any place to go on a vacation. Huh? What are you saying? You see, your daddy, he betrayed me. And to pay for that, he's going to have to pay a settlement fee towards me. And of course, the same goes for your mommy, too. I have all the evidence I need, because my friend had recorded your whole conversation at the cafe. My friend had sent the voice recording to me, and in it, there was a clear voice from Karen calling that woman her mom, and about them talking about my income as a nurse being high, and there was even a conversation that instead of getting a divorce and getting back together, they would just use me for my money and keep the relationship going. When my husband heard that, his face turned pale. And when Karen looked at the state of her father, she must have realized that things were not looking good, and she started to panic. That's why I left those two on the spot, and I gathered my belongings and said, I'm sure you figured this out already, but this apartment is rented under my name, so you're going to have to leave, okay? If you don't, I'm going to report you to the police as trespassers.
Wait a minute! That was all a lie! You're the only one for me, Jessica!
Kevin was saying this, but up until now, he had refused to listen to me, and he was even having an affair, so there was no need for a man like that in my life anymore. And while I was going up against Kevin and Karen, she had already found a strong lawyer for me, and so everything after that went pretty smoothly from there. Shortly after, I was able to collect a settlement fee from my ex-husband and his ex-wife, and I heard that they were struggling to make ends meet. On top of that, my friend had a friend working at Kevin's company, and when she told her friend what happened, rumors spread instantly throughout the company. They heard about the things he said and did to me, and I heard nobody goes near him in the office anymore. As for his ex-wife, apparently she was counting on my money and she was riddled in debt, but that was none of my business. Around the time my divorce was settling down, Karen came over just one time and she said, I'm really sorry, I was wrong. Now that I think about it, your cooking was pretty good, so let's start over again, you, me, and Daddy. She was saying that so irresponsibly, and I looked down at her with cold eyes and replied, Sorry, but I've had enough of looking after a kid that's had no discipline. Why don't you go suck up to your daddy and mommy? I said that and closed the door on her. From there, those people lost their jobs, lost a place to live, and I'm sure they're going to be living a pretty poor life. But they did it all to themselves, so I have no sympathy. Hey, you sent your mom $1,000 again last month, even though I told you so many times to at least talk to me about it before?
Come on, what's the big deal? This is my family. My mom is also your mom. And isn't it a given that you should be helping your family?
My name is Kelly Smith, and this is my husband, Kevin. To be honest with you, I was being really troubled about this situation with my mother-in-law. The main issue is that my husband was far too sweet with his mom. Any time that my mother-in-law would say that she didn't have money, he would send money straight away to her without even asking for my permission. It would be one thing if my mother-in-law was ill and she needed money for her medical treatment, then I would understand. However, that wasn't the case. What my mother-in-law was spending the money on was luxury brand items or expensive lunches. Every single bit of it was a waste of money, and yet I couldn't understand why my husband insisted on sending her money every month. It's not like my husband's salary was that terrible on his own, but my husband was earning $1,000 less than me every month. His monthly income was $2,000. His salary wasn't always that low, but in this economy, the company where my husband was working wasn't doing so well, and his salary was actually reduced recently. But that was out of his control, and I didn't have much to say in regards to that. Since my husband and I were both working full-time, I knew that we had more than enough for us to live comfortably. However, because my husband was sending his mother money multiple times per month, that's why I was starting to get frustrated by it. Of course, every single time that he would do so, I would say something to my husband, but he refused to listen to anything I had to say, and any time that his mom would contact him asking for money, he would quickly send it right over to her. The only reason why my mother-in-law was able to live the comfortable life that she was living was because my job was steady. Our business was going smoothly, and there was no impact on my salary despite the economy. But then one day the incident would happen that would finally be the straw that broke the camel's back. It had already become winter, and we knew that my husband's annual bonus had been cut for that year. However, on the other hand, work was going well at my company, and I was going to be receiving an annual bonus of $5,000 that year. And because I got such a great bonus, I was thinking of sending my older sister Jennifer a gift. Jennifer was 4 years older than me. When we were just little girls, my father had passed away, and so my sister and I grew up in a single-mother household. However, my mother was also quite weak, and even though she was working really hard for us, she often became ill. And because she was working too hard to support us, she was always in and out of the hospital. When I was a little girl, my sister and I would share food together in order to help cut costs. But when my sister became old enough to get a job, she went straight to work. She never had time to hang out with any of her friends, but instead, every single day she was going to work. And she always said that it was because she didn't want me to live a poor life. Because of that, my sister wasn't able to have a normal high school or college life. Instead, she was always working. And because of this, it took her a while to find a partner, and she got married quite late in life. But even though we were happy for her that she was finally able to find a partner and get married, my sister found out that she had a body that was going to make it difficult for her to have children, and she started paying for infertility treatments. But then 3 years later, she was finally able to have her first baby. I was so happy for her. I always wanted to give back to my sister for all the sacrifices she made for me. But no matter how many times I tried to send her money, she refused to accept it. And she would always tell me that I needed to spend the money on myself. However, if I tell her that I wanted to send a gift to my little niece, then she would happily accept it. That's why I got excited, and I was planning on buying all kinds of things for my sister's baby as a way to give back to her. On that day, I had gone to work as usual and was going about my workday like nothing happened. When I finished work, I left the office and went straight to the bank to withdraw the money to buy presents for my sister. However, when I got to the ATM, I got a message saying that there were insufficient funds. I went to confirm the money that was in the account, and to my shock, I saw that there was only $100 left in the entire account. I was so shocked that I went to ask the accounting team what happened. However, they told me that my bonus had already been deposited into my account first thing in the morning. I had a really bad feeling come over me, so this time I rushed home, but when I got there, I was surprised to see my husband at home, even though he should have been at work at that time. I reluctantly asked him, "Hey, Kevin, my annual bonus was supposed to have been deposited into my account this morning, but it was gone. You wouldn't know anything about it, would you?" But then, without any regret, this is what my husband replied.
Oh yeah, I do know what happened to your bonus. I knew that your bonus was going to be deposited into your account today, and it was perfect timing because my mom was saying that she wanted to go on a vacation. So I asked her to at least wait until your bonus was going to come through. That's why today I decided to take a half day off of work, and in the afternoon I went to the bank and I withdrew the money and I handed it to my mom saying that she could go on her trip. My mom said to say thank you. Aren't you glad you could make her happy?
What are you talking about? What on earth were you thinking withdrawing my bonus out of my account without even asking me about it first? And first of all, I was planning on using that money to buy my sister's baby a lot of gifts to congratulate her for finally being able to give birth. How can you do this? This is just too much.
Oh, please, what's so wrong with giving back to our parents? But also, recently, your attitude has been bothering me. You've been getting way too carried away.
Kevin, this is all your fault. I can't believe this. You need to call your mom right now and bring her back here immediately and give me back the money that I earned. Even if we are a married couple and she is my mother-in-law, you can't just withdraw money out of my account without saying anything to me or getting any sort of permission. That is crossing the line for both you and your mom.
What the hell is with that attitude? Who do you think you are?
When he said that, my husband went into his bag and he pulled something out.
You know what this is, Kelly? That's right, divorce papers. And if you're going to continue with that attitude, I don't care about turning this in, you know. See, there, I've already signed it. So what do you say? You don't want to get a divorce from me, do ya? Oh, and also, I almost forgot, but when my mom comes back from her vacation, it's been decided that she's going to move in with us. I mean, you know, she's living by herself now, and I'm worried about her. And by the way, we're going to be giving her an allowance of $1,000 a month, okay? Because, you know, after everything they've done for us.
Sentence after sentence, everything that was coming out of my husband's mouth was so unbelievably rude. that I was at a complete loss for what to say. Even though my mother was still alive and she raised my sister and I as a single mother, I didn't understand why he would only speak about his mother in regards to giving back to our parents. When I heard those words, I realized that any love I had left for my husband had immediately started to disappear. I wasn't saying anything back to him, so perhaps Kevin thought that threatening me with the divorce papers worked, and with a big grin on his face, he skipped out the door. Over the following week, I felt a certain decision inside of me get stronger and stronger. And then, a week later, my mother-in-law came back from her vacation, and Kevin had brought her into the house. "Oh my goodness, I'm so exhausted. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and help me with my bags." She said that to me, but I completely ignored her and turned the other way. "Hey, Kelly, are you listening to me? I'm sure you've heard this from my son already, but starting from today, I am going to be living here with you, so can you hand me the $1,000 right now? Oh, by the way, I'm sure you know this already, but you're going to be taking care of all the chores, okay? But if you are lacking in any little corners, I'm going to make sure I educate you properly."
That's right. My mom knows best, so you better make sure that you listen to everything that she says.
"Oh, that's totally fine. You are more than welcome to live here because I've already moved out." "What? What are you saying?"
Hey, stop messing around. Hurry up and grab my mom's stuff and move it into the house.
"Why don't you grab your mom's stuff and carry it into the house? She is your mom, after all. I'm just an outsider to you, and we're not family anymore, so there's no need for me to carry anything. And you know what? I'm going to go back to my house now, so goodbye."
What do you mean, your house?
Yes, that's right. Thanks to you handing me the divorce papers last week and already signing them, I also filled in my part. I already turned them into the city office, so you and I are no longer family. We're nothing. And so there is no reason for me to live in this house anymore either. And I already moved into a new house for myself. It was a furnished apartment, so I was able to pack everything up in one suitcase and be done.
What did you just say? Why the hell did you turn that thing in? Wasn't it obvious that I was just putting on an act?
What do you mean, why? Let me tell you. Because you used my money, and you're telling me to give an allowance to your mother of $1,000 a month. It's because I don't want to be family with a piece of crap like that.
But what's gonna happen to this house? Obviously, there's no way that I can pay.
Well, I'm not related to you in any way anymore, so that's none of my business. Oh, and also, you should be getting a notice in the mail pretty soon from a lawyer. It'll be an invoice to collect a settlement fee from you, so good luck.
Wait a minute, you're joking, right?
Are you kidding me? What's going to happen to my life then? The two of them were panicking as they asked me these questions, but none of this mattered to me anymore, so I decided to walk straight out of the house and did not look back. After that, it was obvious, but my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were no longer able to survive off of his salary alone, and I heard that they ran out of money in no time. And as if to rub salt into the wound, that was when I sued them for a settlement fee. One day I received a phone call.
Hey, Kelly. That was my bad. I was wrong. I promise I'll be more considerate of you, and I'll tell my mom to hold back a little bit more. I'll make things right, so you have to come back. You and I are in love, so it would be wrong for us to get a divorce, right? I know that you and I can start over now. We can start fresh, right?
You and I are in love? Oh, please don't make me laugh. You can cut it out with the jokes, because I don't even have a millimeter of love left for you.
Wait, what?
Isn't that obvious? You just prioritize your own family, and yet you never once thought about myself or my family either. And why on earth would I find somebody like that who has not a millimeter of thoughtfulness towards me attractive? I'm so glad I was able to divorce you, and I don't have to be thrown around by your mother who spends recklessly anymore. Anyway, that's that. So don't ever think about calling me ever again, because you and I are strangers now. After I said that, I hung up the phone and I blocked him. Kevin sounded like he was about to cry at any moment, but honestly, what's the point in him trying to say all of this to me now? After that, in the end, Kevin was no longer able to pay rent for that house, and eventually he was kicked out. And that's because since Kevin refused to pay the settlement fee to me, so now a portion of his salary was going to me every month. That means he had less than $2,000 a month, and there's no way he would have enough to pay any bills while also looking after his reckless mom. In the end, the two of them moved into a tiny apartment together, but then they were kicked out of that apartment as well, and I heard that they became homeless. And then, now that he no longer had an address, he was also fired from his job, and I'm sure there's only a dark future ahead of them, but I don't feel sorry for them at all.
My name is David Nelson. I'm one in a family of 4 with my parents and my younger brother, Jonathan. My brother Jonathan and I are 13 years apart. And ever since my little brother was born, my parents were obsessed with him. It seems like they didn't love me anymore at all and paid no attention to me. At the time, I was a middle school student, and there was a particular high school that I really wanted to attend. I wanted to go to prep school to study, and I also wanted to join a sports team. However, my parents refused to let me. They said,
"Your little brother was just born. You need to put yourself aside and be less selfish."
That was what they would say, and they refused to spend a penny on me or my education. When I was in my last year of middle school, all of my classmates around me had started going to prep school and studying for high school entry exams. But for me, my parents said to me, "You don't need to go to high school. You need to just go and find a job and put money into the family." Of course, it was really painful to have to give up on not only going to the high school I dreamt of, but going to high school in general. However, because my parents refused to give me any money to attend prep school or to go to high school, I had no choice but to give up on that dream. After I graduated from middle school, I desperately went around to find a job, and I was luckily able to be hired by a civil engineering company. But even after I got a job and I started putting money into the family, nothing changed. My parents only loved my little brother, and every time they would see me, they would say things to me like, "Stop coming home looking so dirty! Just leave the money on the table and get out!" They never wanted me around and were always bashing me. On top of that, even though I was putting $1,000 a month into the family, they refused to make food for me. On the dinner table, my plate would be missing, and I wasn't even allowed to enter the living room of my own home. And perhaps because my little brother was raised by these parents, he would also say things to me like, "Idiot brother, you suck!" When I started hearing these words come out of my little brother, I was reaching the limit of my stress that was piling up inside of me. But life like this continued for about 5 years, until one day I had gone to take a bath, but when I got back to my room, I noticed that my work bag was open. I felt like that was strange, and when I checked inside, I noticed that my wallet wasn't in its usual place and had been moved. I had a bad feeling about it, and when I slowly checked the inside of my wallet, I saw that all of the money that was inside was gone. I stormed into the living room, and when I asked my parents about it, they snapped back at me and said, "How horrible are you that you're going to suspect your own family of stealing from you?" And for some reason, they were the ones angry at me. But then, when I glanced over at my little brother, who had been so focused on the TV until seconds ago, he stood up with an awkward look on his face and slowly walked out of the living room. At that moment, I knew that my little brother was the one that stole the money from me. Even though he was my spoiled little brother, I didn't want him to turn out to become an adult that would easily steal from others. So that night, I decided to quietly go over to my brother's room and to confront him about this. "Kevin, you're going to be honest with me. You're the one that stole the money out of my wallet in my bag, aren't you?" When I looked him in the eyes, he said, "I
didn't steal anything. And you know what? I'm gonna tell on you to Mom and Dad that you suspected me of stealing your money.
And then he flew out of his bedroom. Not only did he steal my money, he was blatantly lying to me like it was nothing. And to be honest, I was shocked. And of course, my brother went straight to my parents and told them about what just happened, and my parents were furious. "What's wrong with you that you would suspect your little brother who's only in elementary school? That's unbelievable! Get out of this house right now!" My father then grabbed my belongings and threw them and me outside of the house. And at the very end, he said, "But you better not forget to put $1,000 into the house every month." Those were his last words to me. And then he physically kicked me out of the house and locked the front door in my face. And so, at the age of 21, I had no choice but to leave my home. I had nowhere to go, and so I went to the house of the CEO of the company where I was working. When I explained the situation to him, he was kind enough to say that I could stay with him until I could find a new place to live. But then, when I told him everything that had happened to me up until that point, the CEO said, "I've never heard of parents who would ever treat their own child like that. That's horrible!" And I could tell that he was angry. And then he told me, "Why are you sending them money? Just stop it!" But as much as I would have loved to stop, there was a reason why I couldn't. And that's because right around the time I first started working, my father told me that he needed to talk in private. And what he revealed to me was that he was actually riddled in a massive amount of debt. It turns out that my father was lying about going to work, but instead he was addicted to gambling, and his debt had already surpassed $1 million. But no matter how much money he took out, it still wasn't enough. And he said that he had taken out a loan from the bank under my name. He then told me that if I don't want to ruin my own name, then I would have to send $1,000 a month into the family to pay back that debt. That's why, even if I didn't want to, I wasn't able to stop sending the money. From there, I rented an apartment nearby, and I began my new life of living alone. I was really fed up with my life with my family who didn't love me, and once I started living alone, I was able to start enjoying my life. Every day was fulfilling and fun, and I could live freely. I was able to invite my friends over to my house whenever I wanted, and for the first time in my life, I even got a girlfriend. Things became serious with her, and I started thinking about a future with her. And I realized that if I was going to continue sending money to my parents in order to be able to support myself and my girlfriend, I was going to need to increase my income. When I went to discuss this with my CEO, he suggested that I consider setting up my own company. He said to me, "Look, David, when you had just graduated from middle school, you joined this company knowing nothing. But I've taught you everything that I know and whipped you into shape as best I could. And looking at you now, I'm confident that if you set up your own company, you'll succeed." And he pushed me. On top of that, the CEO actually supported me in every way for me to set up my own company. And at the age of 24 years old, I became the CEO of a civil engineering company. For a while in the beginning, I was struggling to adjust to the workload, and every day I was working countless overtime, and it was pretty difficult. But by the time a year had gone by, I had gotten used to the work, and my company had taken off. Life was great, until one day. Even though I hadn't heard from my family once ever since they kicked me out of the house, suddenly, out of nowhere, they showed up at my company and barged into the office. Without even saying hello to the other employees, they stormed straight into the company and into my office. my father yelled, "Why didn't you tell us that you started your own company? If you have a higher income now, then you should be sending us more money every month." He was raising his voice, and to add on to that, my mother said,
You're the eldest son of the family. The least you can do is pay for your little brother's high school expenses. Don't you care about your family?
When she said that, my brother chimed in,
That's right, you idiot brother.
and then he actually kicked my desk. Not only were they not grateful for the fact that I had been sending money every single month up until now, they heard from somewhere that I had become the CEO of my own company, and they were coming here to demand more money from me. There is no way that I would be able to forgive them for that. At that very moment, all of my unhappiness over the last 10 years exploded, and I ended up throwing my true feelings at them. I raised my voice and yelled, "That's enough already! Cut it out!" But then my mother was furious and said,
Is that the attitude you take to your parents that have taken care of you for all these years? How dare you?
But I replied, "I don't remember ever being taken care of by you people. And not only that, but I've been sending you $1,000 every month, haven't I?"
You really think that you can speak to us like that over such a small change? That is nothing.
But the moment I heard that, I thought about the blood, sweat, and tears I had gone through to earn the money to send to them every month. And something inside of me finally snapped. Fine then, I'm gonna stop sending you money anymore at all! When I declared that, my father tried to threaten me and said, "If you don't pay back the debt that's under your name, it's your name that's going to be ruined. Are you sure you're okay with that?" He said it confidently, but then I replied straight back to him that I knew he didn't actually take out any loan under my name. Actually, not long ago when I was considering buying a new car, I went to a car dealership, and as I was discussing the loan on the new car, I decided to also ask them about the debt that was supposedly under my name. And that was when the car dealership employee told me that if I discuss it with a lawyer, they would be able to tell me just how much was left on the loan under my name. So I went straight to a lawyer and I asked them to please look into it for me. That was when I found out that there was no loan in existence that was taken out under my name. That was the first time that I learned that it was all a lie that my father had told me in order to continue making me send them money every single month. When I said that and exposed that I knew the truth, my father was clearly flustered. "Well, whatever. Even if that were to be the case, surely you can't just throw your family away like that so easily, can you? Look, I'll spare you from sending any extra money, but at the very least you gotta keep sending us the same amount every month." This time he was begging me, but I simply said one more time, "No, I'm not sending you another penny anymore." This time my mom said,
How awful. Does that mean you don't even care if your brother has to drop out of high school?
But I had had enough. I said, "I don't think of you people as my family anymore anyway. Now hurry up and get out. Don't ever show your faces around here ever again." And I kicked them out of my company. And from that day forward, I stopped sending them any money whatsoever. But then, a few days later, my father showed up at my office once again. This time he was crying to me, saying that he never told the rest of the family about the loans he had to take out because of his gambling problem. And he said that he didn't know what to do about it without the money from me every month. But all I said to him in response was, "That's none of my business, so don't come back here ever again." But this time my father got down on his knees and begged me. But he was only disrupting my work, so I also told him that if he were to come again, I was gonna report him to the police. and I had him out. After that, my father stopped coming to bother me at the office. Not long after that, I stopped sending the money every month. My parents were unable to pay my brother's school fees, and he had no choice but to drop out of high school. Of course, the family found out that this was because my father was struggling to make the payments on his loan. My mother was furious with him, and their relationship completely fell apart. Both my father and mother worked from morning until night until their eyes bled. But on the other hand, my little brother refused to work and continued to steal. I heard that he was taken in by the police multiple times. When he stole the money out of my wallet that day, I was worried that he might end up becoming an adult that steals all the time. And it seems like that prediction was correct. The relationship between the three of them fell apart, and I heard that now they're having to live together while fighting every single day. On the other hand, as for me, I no longer had to send money to my parents anymore and had cut off all ties with them. Around that time, I proposed to my girlfriend and I was going to get married. When it came time to meet our respective families, of course I didn't invite my family. Instead, I asked the CEO of the first company I ever worked at to come with me. Both of her parents were really kind people, and they treated me like I was their actual son. And from now on, I want to treasure my in-laws and my wife, and I even think I want to have children soon. I'm gonna forget about my parents and my little brother, and I can only hope from the bottom of my heart to live happily ever after.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.